Welcome back to the Mowing in the Dark podcast. I am your host, Aaron Sutter. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. Guys, welcome back to the craziness that is the Mowing in the Dark podcast. Guys, I am telling you what, we have had so much rain here in Michigan this week. It is crazy. So, the other day, I went out and my son Marcus, actually yesterday, why did I say the other day? Yesterday, my son and I, Marcus, oh my goodness, I can't talk today. My son and I, that would be Marcus, went out and we did my first power rake driveway repair with the Ventrac. I'm super excited about this, guys. Wow! This machine is just amazing. I love the Ventrac. It is awesome. But it took me a long time to figure this thing out and to use it properly and well. And I'm still figuring it out. It'll probably take me another 2, 3, 4 jobs before I actually get the thing dialed in and using it the way that it's supposed to be used. But I love this thing. It is awesome. It's so much easier than mowing lawns, but the barrier to entry is really steep with a Ventrac. So that's why a lot of guys don't do it. And I'm kind of grateful that they don't, because that leaves more work for me. But before we go any further in today's episode, let me play the podcast show sponsor, which is the mowinginthedarkpodcast.com. And I will see you on the other side of oh my goodness, I cannot talk today. Let's play the sponsor. As a lawn care provider, do you want to make a year-round income? Are you worried at the end of the lawn care season because you don't know how you're going to make it through the winter? Then you need to check out the 12-month contract from mowinginthedarkpodcast.com. This is the same contract that I use to make my own year-round income. This 100% editable 12-month contract is available for only $5.99. The contract has rock-solid terms and conditions so that you're protected from all kinds of liability in lawn maintenance and snow removal. Get your 12-month contract at mowinginthedarkpodcast.com today. All right, guys, thanks for bearing through my fumbling here. I'm just super excited. I'm working on editing a video with the Ventrac, doing that driveway, and it turned out fairly good. My son Marcus was the one that did all the filming, so there's some issues with the filming, but that's okay. That's not a problem. He did a great job for not knowing how to do it, and I'm really excited for you guys to see that machine in action. But guys, that's really not what this episode is about. Today, I want to talk about getting into these lines of work that are higher dollar, that can make you more money. But I also want to talk about the barrier to entry and what I think about that. All right, because it's a whole thing, guys. I just heard another person talk about this today, Tigran Gertz. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I saw a short by him, and he was talking about a Mini X that he bought. All right, now I'm not a huge fan of Tigran. I'm not a huge fan of the 10X guy, whatever his name is. Grant Cardone, there we go. I'm not a huge fan. In my personal life, I'm a huge fan of Dave Ramsey, okay? However, for business, it's different. And I understand that Dave Ramsey, his plan leaves no room for debt. None. If you want to call into his show and do a debt-free scream, you cannot have had any debt or any credit card or anything for personal or business. None. You can't do it. He won't allow that. And so I get the personal side of that, being debt-free, and that's where I am heading. That's what I want. But for business, it's a little different, because how do you grow? I would not be able to continue this business for another 2-3 years because my body is just sore. I'm just broken down. I feel it. I felt it yesterday just driving the Ventrac, and it sucks. That's why last year was so miserable. My body just hurt the whole year. I just felt sluggish and slow and like I was walking, trudging through peanut butter. It was just awful. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone. But I'm getting older. I have to accept the fact that I'm not 20 years old anymore, and that my body isn't going to be able to take all this abuse that I'm putting on it over the next few years. It's just not. I've put my body through a lot of stress over the years. I started off working mowing lawns when I was 10, and then when I turned 12 or 13, I started working 1 day a week in construction as an apprentice. Then at age 14, I started working full time in the summer when I was off school in construction. And I worked full time in the summer until I was 16 or 17. And then I started working full time all year round. So I worked full time and I did school full time my senior year. And so it was abuse on my body. Plus I was playing basketball. Plus I was playing softball. Plus all the other crap that I put through my body through. I blew up half of my face. You wouldn't know that today. But when I was like 12 years old, I blew up half of my face with one of those little bottle bombs that you make. I was stupid and immature. I put Snowball in a 2-liter bottle, and I put tinfoil in it, and it would not explode. The chemical reaction wouldn't happen because the bottle was too big and I didn't have enough Snowball. So what I did, being the smart idiot that I was, I went out in the field where this bottle was, I undid the cap, I lit a match and dropped it in there, and my face was right over it, and I was looking in there, and boom! I had like 2nd or 3rd degree burns on half of my face. I almost lost my right eye. I put my body through a lot. When I was 16 years old, I blew out my knee, and I wasn't able to get it fixed because my parents didn't have insurance. So I didn't get it fixed until I was like 30 years old. My body has been through a lot, and I'm overweight. Let's not forget that. So I'm overweight. And it's crazy. My body has just been through it. All right. It's just been through a lot. And I'm sore right now for no reason. I shouldn't be sore, but my back is screaming at me right now. I don't know why. It's just, I'm old, I guess. But I'm telling you, I can't do lawn care forever. And so that's why I bought this Ventrac machine. That's why I have plans to expand these Ventrac services, because it's a lot less strain on the body. And that's the whole reason that I'm going that direction. Because let me tell you, lawn care is a lot easier. It's a lot easier to get lawn care work than it is to get heavy equipment work, which is what I kind of consider the Ventrac. Now, I realize it's not heavy equipment, but that's what I consider it as, because many companies use heavy equipment to renovate driveways. Many companies use tractors and brush hogs to brush hog fields and brush and things like that. That is heavy equipment work. All right. Now, I do not consider the Ventrac a piece of heavy equipment, but it does the job of heavy equipment. And so that's why I refer to it as that, and I'm going to continue to refer to it as that. But the cost of entry is super high. This was a big risk for me to take, to go all in on the Ventrac. And I mean, I shouldn't say all in, but take the leap and get a loan and purchase the Ventrac, because that's a lot of money. A lot of money. That's over $50,000 into that machine. All right. And I took a loan on that. And so it's an expense that is huge. And that is why I struggled with making the decision on whether to buy it or not, whether to even just go with a tractor or not. It took me a long time to work through all the different scenarios in my mind of what could happen. What are the things that could happen? Could I get injured and I won't be able to work and I won't be able to pay for the machine? Could I do this, that, whatever? All right. I'm happy to tell you that I've been getting estimate calls like crazy for Ventrac work. And so I'm not worried anymore about whether I'm going to have enough work, at least not yet. The economy is kind of going like this, going down. Sorry, guys. I said like this and I'm on video. That's why I said I was using hand motions. I forget that sometimes that you can't see me. You can only hear me if you're listening to the podcast. So I apologize. These podcast episodes, they are on YouTube and they're on Rumble. So go check them out. I really appreciate those of you who watch on YouTube and Rumble, because you wouldn't know it, but there's a lot of people that watch podcast videos on YouTube and Rumble. So go check them out if you would. Subscribe to the channels. I really appreciate that. But anyway, now I forget what I was talking about. However, doesn't matter. So the barrier to entry is huge on getting into a machine like a Ventrac. So here's the cons to that. You have a huge debt payment. All right? You have a huge debt payment on this machine. And you have to perform. You have to perform the work. That's the downside. All right? You have to be able to get that work. So what I did to kind of bridge that gap, so before I even bought the machine, I started advertising. Before I even contacted a financing company to see if I could get pre-approved for a loan for a Ventrac, I started advertising. I just used stock photos from Ventrac to make advertisements on Facebook. And I advertised those things in Facebook groups. Originally, I started advertising brush hogging because I thought that's what I'm going to be doing the majority of. So I started brush hogging advertisements. Not a peep. I got one client, one customer from a brush hogging ad. But I have gotten at least 15 driveway renovation requests for estimates since I started advertising. And I started advertising those about 2 weeks after I started advertising the brush hogging. And I'm telling you what, this time of year, it's probably just a time of year thing, right? Nothing's really growing around here right now, but driveways are just crap right now. It's been a hard year here in Michigan with the freeze thaw. And so a lot of people have potholes in their gravel driveways. And so that is where that advertisement piece comes in. And I just had to figure that out. So I had 4 jobs already landed, already accepted before I purchased the Ventrac. That's huge, guys. That's huge. That told me that there's work out there for this Ventrac. And there's enough work that I can land jobs before I even have the machine. And so, guys, that's the first step. If you want to get into work like this, you need to advertise as if you already have the machine and you're going to go out and you're going to estimate these jobs. Even though you've never done one before, go out and estimate it, because what I did is I did research upon research upon research on YouTube, on just on Google, how to do driveway renovations. And most of them were with a tractor and a box blade. But the information is pretty much universal on how to estimate these things, how to look at a driveway, what you need to do for the driveway to crown it, to make it work, to make the water flow, and things like that. And I know what to look for. And so when I got that down, I just knew that I can go out and I can estimate these jobs. And I can tell them what needs to happen on their driveway. And then now that I have the machine, I can actually do it. And I proved that to myself yesterday on that driveway renovation job. I proved it to myself that I can do it. And so that was the first step in getting into the first barrier to entry on a Ventrac, was being sure that I could get the jobs. All right. And then you have the money piece. And so you need to figure out how much you need to charge per hour to run this machine. And so my charge per hour is $250 per hour to run this machine. My minimum to show up on a job is $350. That is a far cry from lawn care. Lawn care, you're in my area, you're lucky to get $35 a lawn. Now that can go up or down depending on the size of the lawn, but basically you're in that range. And so when you think about it that way, I told my son yesterday, so I got $500 for doing this driveway yesterday. It took us 3.5 hours. And I had a client who paid the whole season in advance. It's a small postage stamp lawn, and they paid $900 for the season. And I told my son Marcus, I said, do you realize in 3.5 hours we made more than half of the total amount of money that lawn is going to bring for the entire season for 25 weeks. I have to visit that lawn 25 times to get that $900. I went to this driveway one time for 3.5 hours and I made $500. That is where we're at here. And so, yes, the barrier to entry is high. It is high, but you have to understand, if you're willing to take the risk, and some people aren't, some people can't handle that risk, and that's okay. Do not talk down to yourself because you can't handle the risk. If you can't handle the risk, don't do it. Do not do it. You need to know your numbers. You need to know how much you can charge. You need to know yourself. You have to know whether you can handle the risk or not, whether you can handle that stress or not of that risk. So if you cannot handle the risk, if you know yourself and you cannot do it, do not jump into a big machine like this. Don't do it. Trust your gut. Trust your gut. I trusted my gut on this. I went back, like I've said, I went back and forth on the purchase of this machine for months. And I had to get to the place where I knew in my mind that I could make it financially work with this machine. If you don't know in your guts and in your mind that you can make it work with this machine, that you can make a lot of money with it, then don't do it. That's what I'm going to say. Don't do it. But if you know that you can make some serious cash with this machine, and you know that you have the ability to do it, then do it. Go for it. Take the chance. Take the risk. If you can stomach the risk, if your wife can stomach the risk, because this is yes, it's business debt, but it can also affect your family. You have to think about this stuff. My wife was extremely supportive of me purchasing this machine. So I knew that she can handle the risk. She's a business owner too. So we have two businesses, plus she works a full-time job. And I really consider my Ventrac work, I actually consider that a separate business. Even though it's under the Lansing Lawn Service umbrella, I consider that its own business because I'm only going to be doing that on Saturdays. That's how much money I can make with this machine. That I only have to use it on Saturdays. That's the difference here. Now, I have the machine financed for 60 months. So that does play into it. Okay? So it's a high payment. I'm not going to tell you what the payment is, but it's a high payment. But I know that I can make that money. And so if you, like I said before, if you don't know that you can do it, then don't do it. You have to be able to know yourself with a risk like this. You have to know yourself. You have to know who you are, what your personality is before you jump into this. There's no shame in understanding yourself and knowing that you can't handle that stress and that risk. There's no shame in that. I am not looking down on anyone for not being able to do that. You have to know yourself. I would look down on you if you took on that risk and put your family in jeopardy. That's what I would look down on. So don't ever feel bad because you aren't willing or are unable to take on that risk of that huge payment, that huge purchase. Don't ever feel bad about sticking to who you are, because some people can handle that and some people can't. All right. And so what Tigran Gertz was saying was, like, he knows that he has all his other equipment is paid off according to him. And so he needed a new thing to put money towards. And the reason he purchased this Mini X is because he knows he can use this thing to make a lot more money for his business. And that's where I feel I am at with the Ventrac. I know that I can make a lot more money for my business. And eventually, I'm going to cut back on the lawn care. And I'm going to push that Ventrac work. And I'm going to just advertise the snot out of it this year and just pile on those estimates. And if I can't get to the work and I lose some customers, they're not clients, they're customers, because clients are someone that stick with you for the long term. Clients are somebody that it's just one-time purchase. All right, that's a customer. A client is like my lawn care clients. They stick with me, okay? So these customers, if I lose some of them, yeah, I'm out a little bit of money, but my schedule's full. And so I don't mind that. And so scheduling is going to be a little bit of an issue for me, I think, but I'm working on that. I'm getting that set now. So hopefully I can get that all dialed in. But that's all part of the barrier to entry. Another thing that's a barrier to entry here is that it adds a lot of insurance. You have to carry a lot of insurance for that. And so there's just a lot that goes into it. It's not just buying the piece of equipment. It's the insurance. It's the repairs, because eventually you're going to break it. It's so much. But you have to know that you have to know yourself. You have to know that no matter what, you're going to make it work. And you just have to know yourself to know whether you can make that happen or not. Whether you have that personality or not to go out and get the work. That's what you have to do. And so, guys, that's really it for this episode. I know the last 2 episodes I've talked about the Ventrac. We're going to get back to the lawn care stuff here in the next, not the next episode, but the episode after that. Because the next episode is a Faith Friday episode. But on Tuesday's episode, we're going to get back into the lawn care stuff. And we're going to be hitting that hard because we're in the spring rush. So, guys, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. I really do appreciate it. Please subscribe to this podcast if you haven't yet. That way you don't miss an episode. Also, head over to the mowinginthedarkpodcast.com website. Check out the 12-month contract there. We also have like a client cancellation letter, and we have like a advertisement type thing there. Everything's very cheap. It's $5.99 or less. So go check it out. You won't be disappointed. You can also listen to the podcast there if you want to check it out there. So, guys, that's it for this episode. Thanks so much for listening, and I will see you in the next episode.